Italian Family History Group, Moschella Wines, IFHN, Web Video, Strata Choice, and Buona Benu Olive Grove. So we thank them. But mostly, the person that I really want to thank and that our committee wants to thank is our immediate past chairman, which is Dominic Arivalo, who is our founding member, who's here in the audience tonight, who has molded, shaped, and nurtured what the group is doing. I promised Dom about a year ago when I was elected the new chairman, because Dom stepped down after 13 or 14 years, that I would never let him down, and I hope that I and our committee, Dominic, are successful in keeping that promise and keeping your great achievements that you foresaw for those 13 or 14 years. So anyway, thank you, Dominic, for everything. Just a couple forthcoming events. The Italian Family History Group will have a dinner. We'll have it at La Jara Restaurant, which is in the Italian Forum, around the first or second week of December. The date's not set yet, but I will announce at our next event, or if you go to our website, or if you're on our database, we'll send you out a newsletter. So please come to that, and if you're a member, you'll have a bit of a discount on the actual attendance. An event next year that's happening in New Italy, which is near Lismore, Woodburn to be exact, in New South Wales, happens on the 12th of April. They have a yearly carnival. It's called Carnevale Italiano, and a lot of people enjoy that event. It's a weekend. I think it's actually a Sunday that happens. And the Italian Family History Group are just now looking into the possibility of actually working out a group rate via bus travel or airfare and some accommodation, and we'll keep you informed if you're on our database about that, if anybody's interested, because it's a fun event to go to. Going through the list, I wanted to mention a really interesting event that happens in 2015 in Canberra. It's called Congress 2015. Happens from the 26th to the 30th of March in Canberra, and it's about all Australians who would like to research their family history, not just Italian, but of all places. And if anybody's interested, if you go to our website, we'll have this up on the website sometime in the next week. It's also an interesting event to go to. In 2015, we have a fairly good lineup of speakers. First of all, next month, which is our last one this year, we have a gentleman named Cristoforo Galliano, who's an Italian immigrant, who did his PhD on Italians migrating to Australia in the 50s and 60s. And he did his PhD on music and the various stories and rare documentaries from the time. So Cristoforo will be speaking and showing a lot of his little short films that he gathered for his PhD on this lovely big screen. So it could be a really interesting event to come to. Well, we've set our dates for 2015. It's now going to be the fourth Wednesday of every month being 9 months a year, with the exception of January, with the exception of July, and with the exception of December. So if you have a look at our site, you can see who we actually have speaking in 2015. A bit of housekeeping before we get underway. Your entry ticket that you have in your hand actually assists in the production of our event for the venue hire, our refreshments, and the various raffle prizes that we actually offer at the end of the night. The entry ticket also provides you with a free tea or coffee or a discount of $2.50 off food or vino or drink of your choice at La Jara Restaurant, which is in the Forum that I mentioned earlier. And if anybody's not familiar with where it is, as you walk out Palace Cinemas, you turn to your left, you walk all the way down to the entrance of the Forum. You walk down the Forum, walk down the large Grande Piazza steps, and you walk all the way down the back towards the left, and that's La Jara Restaurant. It's the last restaurant on the left. So we actually all try and meet there at the end of the night if you'd like, for a vino or a coffee or something to eat, and They usually have tables for about 40 or 50 people. So anybody that would like to are welcome to use your discount ticket for that event. Also, we're very thankful to Antonio Zeccola, again, for allowing us parking validation here, which is really a plus. We get a discount if you park underneath Palace Cinemas. You just present your ticket to the front concession stand at the end of the night, or if you park at Kohl's parking lot, either parking lot, and you'll get a discount. I'm not quite sure what the total cost will be, but it's quite substantial. So thank you again to the cinema for providing that. I very quickly just wanted to thank our executive committee and our committee, and especially to the two lovely, lovely people that work right at the front of house at the door here, which is Josie Valley and our vice president, vice chairman, that is, Anthony Ravisi. So we thank them for all their hard work. We'd like to interject a little bit of cultural stuff each event, so I thought that I would actually sort of entertain you with one Italian song on guitar. 116 years ago, A Beautiful Timeless Song was written by Edoardo Caputo, arguably the most recorded melody in the world, O Sole Mio. Written in 1898, to be exact, at 6:01 p.m. Then in 1918 was the first real hit of the song, and it was performed and recorded and released by Italian tenor Enrico Caruso. Recorded the piece and is probably the most famous vocal version that was ever produced. Others that followed, of course, were Mario Lanza, Luciano Pavarotti, and of course the three tenors, and it goes on and on and on. And commercially, of course, one of the most remembered is its retitle. It's retitled to It's Now or Never, recorded by Elvis Presley, of course. And there's something about the songs of Italy, especially the songs of Napoli. They just really pull at the heartstrings. They're just so lyrical. So I'll play you this piece before I introduce Joe. Okay, is that working? Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, because we like to throw a little bit of sort of culture into the night, so thank you for listening. Okay, so his parents are from Calabria. Joe Avati's observational brand of comedy has earned him comparisons to Jerry Seinfeld, who's one of my favorites. And in his promotions, he is often referred to as the Italian Seinfeld. So without further ado, I'd like to thank and welcome Joe Avati.
Hello everybody, how are you? Where am I going to sit up?
Over here. Joe, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you very
How
much.
are you? Have a seat.
I want to know how a Yankee got your job.
Italiano, non Yankee, Italiano.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an absolute honour to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for coming.
It's very interesting for me because normally and believe it or not, this is a lot harder to do than actually standing up and telling gags. Believe it or not, talking seriously.
Well, that's right, because I think Joe's actually afraid of what I'm actually going to do. I promise I'm not going to embarrass you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll deal with it.
Yeah, so welcome. And the Italian Family History Group are really, really sort of very privileged to actually have you here to talk about your family heritage a bit, and also to actually talk about your career mostly, which I personally find very, very fascinating. Because it's a very difficult career to actually work in because the entertainment industry is all over the place. But Joe is so successful actually here and in Canada and globally, So, but a good place for us to start, I think, is to actually talk about your family heritage a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
My parents, my grandparents are Calabrese. They come from Reggio Calabria, both sets of grandparents. And it's very interesting because one set of grandparents came out here. They actually met and married in Australia. My mother's parents met and married in Australia. That's how long they've been here. And my mother was born in Australia. Actually, my parents are here. They're at the back. So say hello. My dad's the one that looks like George Clooney.
Yeah, that's
George Clooney.
fantastic.
If I had that here, I'd be a movie star. But my mother was born in Australia, and my father was born in Reggio Calabria. My mother's parents were born in Reggio Calabria as well, and they met and married in Australia. And they came here around about the end of the 40s. When did Nonna come, Mum? About end of 1949 and 1951. They got married in 52, and Mum was born in 53 because that's the that's what happens, right? When you that's how you can always tell. Mum's the eldest. That's how you can tell how long an Italian couple's been married. You get the eldest child and add 1 year, and that's how long.
that's it. Yeah.
That's the Italian mathematical equation of figuring out how long someone's been married. So, and it's very interesting because my father's side of the family, my father came here in 1971, and then his entire family came out here in 1973, probably just 2 weeks before Mum and Dad got married. And so I grew up having two sides, really, of Italo-Australian families. One that was very Italian. They had just, I was born 1974, by the way, and thank you, I'm 40.
God, I feel old.
And so they came out in 1973. So I grew up with Calabrese family, a Calabrese family who had just arrived, and I was born the next year. So I grew up in the arms of a family who didn't speak English because they had just arrived. I learned to speak Calabrese before I learned to speak English. And my nonni still really don't, on my father's side, don't speak English because they never had to. They came here and they sort of retired. And yet on my mother's side, my grandparents spoke English. My grandfather is not with us anymore, but he used to write in English. We used to email each other. And so I grew up with this juxtaposition, if you like, these two very different families.
Yeah, cultures, yeah.
And even though they all came from the same area, they were very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting, isn't it? So you actually grew up learning to speak Italian. Dialetto, of
Well,
course.
Calabrese.
Yeah. It's not Italiano. Dialetto, Calabrese.
No, it's funny when you go to Italy, they can tell.
Yeah.
When you speak to them, and it's funny how when you hear, you posso parlare calabrese, non c'è problema. When you get to Italy, all of a sudden you're tongue-tied, you can't speak anymore. You go to the post office, it's like pacchetto, cashipu, or Australia. And so it's funny. But I did grow up speaking Calabrese before I spoke English. I went to school learning how to speak English as a second language.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what was it like for you to grow up, sort of at that time,
Yeah.
in Australia?
Well, growing up, in the 70s and 80s as a child of Italian immigrants really is, interestingly enough, the same as every other Italian child who grew up, and that's why I guess I work in America and I work in Canada and I work in England and Scotland and obviously in Australia. And it's interesting how you could get 4 people from the same village in Italy, send them to different countries around the world. One can go to Canada, one can go to America, one can go to Australia, one goes to England, and then you fast forward 30 years and none of these people have spoken to one another.
Yeah.
But yet you look into their lounge rooms, and we've all put plastic on the furniture, and we've all concreted the back.
The big tiles.
Tiles, and these are stereotypical jokes. That probably Vince. When I say Vince Sorrenti started. And the interesting thing about Vince is an absolute gentleman and a fantastic performer himself. Is that his parents and my grandparents come from exactly the same little village, not the same area, the exact same town called Cerello. And a lot of people don't know that. And something about Cerello was produced comedian.
What? Yes, you're
something in the soil. and so those sort of gags that probably Vince started many years ago as well. We're sort of now, they're sort of cliche gags now, but back then it's true. And it's interesting how all the people all over the world do it. And people ask me, do I have to change my show when I go to England or America? No, I don't.
No, right. Fantastic. Okay, so it's the same.
It's amazing how that actually happens.
Yeah, right.
And the reason why, and a lot of people, why this whole plastic on the furniture situation? Why is that? Because in Italy they don't do it. Right? Why is it? And it's because our parents and grandparents came to Australia or to wherever they went because it was hard. It was hard back then, and they went to another country to make a better life for themselves and for their children. And so they would work just as hard, but probably earn 3 or 4 times the amount of money. So when they had something nice, they wanted to preserve it and keep it as long as possible. And that's the reason why. And it took me 6 months to take the plastic off my new chairs and that I bought a couple of years ago because
it felt like home.
What am I doing? I'm doing the same thing as when I make fun of everyone, and it's just something in us,
Yeah.
And that's why that whole plastic on the furniture happened.
No, I suppose.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It's,
That's, so as a child, you couldn't sit on the furniture unless you had a family gathering and they would take the plastic off.
Yeah, or if the Pope came. The only time we were around in the nice room was when they brought around the Madonna. And we were all in there, they roped it off.
Yeah.
But everyone had that room, Everyone had that room, It's like the kitchens, And often people say, Italians love food. I said, yeah, that's why we have 2 kitchens, And we spend 40,000 building one, and then we eat in the garage.
Yeah. Because we used to have one in the basement and one upstairs.
Right, of course.
Always,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but we did. We always have it. Yeah.
That's right, because in where you come from, it's cold, so they have to build basements. And
exactly. Yeah.
So that joke about the garage doesn't work in Canada because they don't eat in the garage; they eat in the basement.
In the basement, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. So, where did your passion start to actually work as a comedian in the entertainment industry?
I guess it really started more so because when I was growing up, I wanted to be a rock star, right? And I wanted to be George Michael. I wanted to be Simon Le Bon. I wanted to be a singer, but I didn't really have the voice for it. And then my dad said, no. Us people, Calabrese, we don't do rock star stuff. It's not the kind of stuff that we do. So he said, go get a degree, and then you can do whatever you want. So when I got two, I got a food science degree and an honours in food science, and now I make people laugh for a living. And it's a true story. You can ask Daddy. He said that. He said, do it. Get a degree and then do whatever you want. Because it's Calabrese people who are not rock stars. You can't do this. So that the pursuit really of being in the entertainment industry was more to do with being a musician and being a pop star. And so I studied music, and then that stopped, and I went to university. And then while I was at university, I was making people laugh at parties, and I was making fun of the lecturers, impersonating lecturers. And a friend of mine said, "Why don't you go to the Comedy Store one day and try it out?" So I did. I had a few little anecdotes that I'd come up with, growing up as a child, because obviously my real name is Giuseppe. And one of the things that used to upset me was I could never find a mug with my name on it. and so, this was one of my first jokes, and that's how I entered into, doing into comedy. Yeah.
So a very natural thing for you. It just sort of came, and that was.
It did come, but if you know me, and my parents will vouch for this, I was extremely shy.
Right.
As a child, very, very shy. Forget what you see now. It's my father took me aside one day, I remember, and he said, son, you don't converse a lot, you don't talk, when we're having family functions and there's people coming over, you don't talk. You need to come out of your shell a little bit, otherwise you're not going to make anything of yourself. And what was happening was I was just too shy to talk. But at the same time, while I wasn't thinking about what to say, I was just sitting down absorbing. And I did that for a good 15, 16 years of my life. Just sit down and absorb and look, when we had visitors, or we'd go do the visiting at the Kumar, the Kumpari's house, and I would sit down, I would go to the fridge, and I would open the fridge, and I would see the butter container, I would open it up, and I would say, why is there olives in here? And the worst one was at summer. Summer was the worst because you'd come running home after school, and you go in the freezer and you open it up, and there's the big tub of ice cream, and open it up and it's sauce. That was the most frustrating, right?
That's right.
And I thought it was sorbet at first. And it was always in the Neapolitan tub, right? I don't know, for some reason it was the only ice cream Italians ate in the 70s and 80s. But, so I would do that, and I would look at the characters that were in the household, and I would just absorb, and I would take on what I'd see and what I'd hear, and I would talk to myself. Now when people say when you talk to yourself, you're mad, but it's not. I was chatting to myself, going, why is this? Why do they do this? Why is everyone yelling? Why are we eating at 10 o'clock at night? And so that's what formed part of the content of my show. That's why it's so, I suppose, as you said before, very observational.
Because it's very natural for you. And I went and saw Joe. I forgot where was it.
It was at Canterbury Hillston Park.
Canterbury Hillston Park. It was brilliant. Because I don't know if anybody's ever you must go see one of Joe's shows when he's in town. It's just hysterical. He's just in tears. Fantastic. Yeah, really good. So a few prompting questions, if that's okay. Yeah. Because we have a series of things we wanted to do. We want to put some pics up on screen, have Joe talk about his family, et cetera. But unfortunately, the pics aren't in any brilliant order, because I actually did it as you were getting changed. Yes. But so do you want to start with actually some prompting questions here? Or
however you like.
Okay. All right. So
you're the director.
Numero
boss.
Can you give us a brief overview of how it was that you became so well known amongst the Italian communities all around the world? What was the launching pad?
I guess, okay, what happened was I was doing comedy. I started doing comedy in 1996, 97. I started very close to here, actually, right at the end of this trail. I'm not sure if you, how long have you been in Australia?
26 years.
Oh, okay, 26
so,
years.
Yeah.
So you know, well, the comedy store used to be here on Crystal Street, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and now it's moved to Fox Studios. So that's where I first started. I tried out there. Every Tuesday night I would go and I'd try out. And then
So at 22 years old?
I was 21.
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
21.
Mm.
And so I went there to try out, and I was doing okay and getting gigs along the way. And then I got the job to support a group of comedians who came out from America, and one of those guys was a guy called Bruce Smirnoff, who told me that he was going back home and was doing a one-man show when he got back home. And I thought, that's interesting. I thought, because I was doing well, but there was nothing so different about my comedy that would make me stand out to any of the other comedians that were before me or after me. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, this one-man show is an interesting concept. So then at the same time, I got invited to perform at the Italian Song Festival in the city, and there was 1,000 Italians there. And I thought, and while they were making the choice for to see who had won the competition, they needed somebody to get up and entertain while the judges were making their decision. So out came, that was the first time I ever did the joke about the potatoes, right? Which is the due patate.
Oh,
My nonna would send me to go get due patate, and that's what I did. I'd go and get due because that's all I knew.
What's the joke? I don't know the joke.
You don't know that joke? Okay,
I don't
well,
know.
this was the joke that sort of launched me, I suppose, in one way. She would say, go in the shed doing a pigeon with due patate, so I would go and get 2 potatoes because that's all I knew. I grew up in Australia, 2 men 2. When I got to her house, she go, that's all you brought me, solo 2 mi portasti. No, you want a due patate, I bought you 2 patate. And she said, no, in italiano 2 vuol dire 8 9. Right? So the following week, she sent me to go and get 2 kilos of meat. I bought it back 8. and that's a true story. And that was the first time I ever did that joke. And the laughter at that joke was so great. It was much greater than my English material. And I thought, and then I did some other Italian gags. And all of a sudden the phone started ringing. Can you do my wedding? Can you do my christening? Can you do the Italian festa? And so as I was doing these shows, I was gaining more material, and my name started spreading because there wasn't anyone who had done this. And so then what happened after that was we decided to put on a show at a place in New Prairie, in Denzer Park, called Ramazzotti's, which is a very good friend of mine who's here tonight, Mr. Dominic Vasta, had, and Dom's a big Ramazzotti fan and also an Eros Ramazzotti impersonator. And so he had this pizza shop, and he said, why don't we do a show? And I said, okay, well, you sell the tickets for dinner. I'll come and do the show, and what I'll do, but just sell tickets only to Italians. And I'll trial it out for the first time, and I'll put all my English material together, all the Italian material, and let's see if we can do a show. So we did that, and that was the 17th of August in 1998. And then it sold out really quickly. It was only a 90-seater restaurant, but it sold out so quickly that we ended up doing another one on the 24th of August, the following Monday, and it sold out again. I thought, okay, we've hit onto something here. So then I hired a bigger venue in Parramatta, the Parramatta Riverside Theatre, and on the 10th of September 1999, I recorded my first album, which was called Living La Dolce Vita. Right? Not La Dolce Vita, La Dolce Vita.
Dolce Vita.
Dolce, yeah, because Dolce, yeah. And just a little play on words there. And that was released on the 19th of January 2000. And that particular night, we sold 90 CDs on that one night.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I was like, whoa, geez, what's going on here? And it was in Melbourne, at Crown. And within months, literally within 4 months from the release of that album, I was then touring Australia to 1,000, 1,200 people, 1,500 people, and shows would be just selling out without advertising. And then within 6 months, and it just happened right, I guess I was sort of lucky, and at the time Napster was big, which was the file sharing program on the internet, where people would download other people's music.
Stealing.
Well, yeah, of course, stealing. But, you know, that single-handedly, there was a routine called Nonno's car accident, which single-handedly launched my career in America, in Canada, in England, and within 6 weeks, you know, it's called an overnight sensation, but really it took 6 weeks, and I was getting emails from all parts of the world asking me when I was going there, and I'm thinking, well, I've never been to Canada, I've never been to America.
Okay.
Where's all this coming from? And then, so we followed it up, and then, you know, we put tickets on sale in Canada, and actually, one of the not that picture there, but you can actually see that's this is where I ended up. This is 10,000 people in Melbourne, and that was a great show. My friend Dominic was there as well, and Dom Buster was there, all there actually. Oh my God, very, very. I've got a lot of friends called Dom, so we have to give him each other. Like one sells cars, so he's Car Dom, he's Pizza Dom, and he's Gelato Dom because he used to own Gelatissimo, right? Now he's Meatball Dom. He's got a meatball shop.
Okay.
But they were all there actually, and this is at Rod Laver Arena, which was a buzz.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but there's another.
I'll flick through it.
Yeah, flick through, but flick through it quickly because I'll show you why.
No.
No.
Oh,
Keep going,
sorry,
keep
that's
going.
you. That's so sideways.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. Where is it?
As
These are. Well, you've downloaded all these pictures.
I did. Well, yeah. I thought I
Some
should.
of them are, that's my mum.
It's safe. There's nothing dangerous on here.
No.
Okay.
So that the next one that.
Was it that one?
No, the next one. Keep going. That one. Okay, so that venue there is in Toronto. And when we went on sale, we ended up selling that particular venue out 23 times.
Wow.
And so that's the next picture, I think, after that.
Okay.
Yeah, that one there. That's a 3,000-seater venue, and that's just in one city.
Brilliant.
And that was just all on the back of Nonno's car accident.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been touring ever since.
So thanks to Napster, really.
Thank you. I thank Napster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thank Napster.
Of course, he's out of business now, but it served a purpose for you.
Yeah.
That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, what effect? I have a couple other little questions here. Yeah, what effect does the content of your shows have on Italian communities as a whole?
I guess the answer to that really, a lot of the answers, you know, that I'm, well, a lot of the things I'm talking about tonight, the answers are very simple for me to give you because they're questions that have been asked a lot. But there are also themes that come up a lot over the last 15 years that I've been in the sort of the limelight, I suppose. The material as a whole, some people were embarrassed about being Italian or Greek or wherever they were from because they thought that their family was the only ones who killed a pig and hung it upside down and with blood dripping out everywhere. They thought there was the only family who would have to go and do the visits on the and do the weddings and do that whole and so they and I felt like this too. Every Monday morning was the only time I was a little bit embarrassed about being Italian because you'd go to school wondering, I wonder if John had to kill the pig on the weekend. I wonder if Rhonda had to make the salami. And show and tell was the worst time.
Why is that?
Well, because all the Aussie kids would get up and they'd do normal things, like, oh, Brian, what did you do? And, oh, we went bushwalking and hiking and we pitched a tent. And how about you, Rhonda? And Rhonda would be, surfing and hanging out on the beach. And then it was my turn, and then I was like, yeah, miss, I went all the way to the garage at 6:30 on a Saturday morning to put basil in the tomato sauce bottle.
In the ice cream container.
And so you would get a lot of people who were of my generation who were embarrassed, and they actually didn't talk about it because they thought that they were the only ones. They thought, how many times people have written and said, "I thank you because I thought my family was the only stuff that." Oh, they used other words, but I'm not going to use them. Yeah. because my mum's here and she'll still hit me. And, you know, I thought my family was the only weird family. And listening to your comedy, it made me realise that your family's gone through the same thing. And I've watched your DVD and I've seen thousands of other people laughing at the same thing. So all of a sudden, I'm not the only one. And it made people feel okay about their heritage.
Right. Yeah.
And so, as an add-on effect to that, sometimes grandparents would thank me because they would say, you know, before it was daggy for them to hang out with Nonno and Nonna. Now they want to hang out with Nonno and Nonna to hear if Nonno and Nonna, you know, says funny stuff like Joe Avati. So the Nonno and Nonna would say, thank you, because you've made the grandchildren want to spend more time with us. You know, even if they just want to listen and make them laugh, they're actually spending more time with us. And as a whole, around the world, as a community, you know, it's really funny when people say, I've had these people say to me, oh, the only time, you know, I ever get to see my cousins is at weddings, funerals, and or a Joe Avati concert. You know, and the shows always start late. The theatres hate us when we go in there because, you know, all the theatres, 500 Italians, 300, 1,000, or however many, all in the foyer, all talk, hey, compadre, come out, you know, and hurry up, we've got things to do, we've got the show to start, you know. And so it sort of brought a lot of people closer together, and as does anything that's Italian, like, you know, when Ferrari wins the world championship, you know, that all of a sudden, or when Italy won the World Cup, you know, it's those kind of events that bring the community closer together, and I think that's what also the work has done over the years.
So when you put a new show together, where do you start? With concepts, all about family concepts. And
well, I have a rule that the artists that I work with, even if they do their own thing in their own shows, that when they're working with me, that there has to be no swearing, that there has to be nothing, you know, talking about sex or drugs or any sort of thing that's going to offend anybody.
Right.
And you know, we set a mandate. It's in their contract, and sometimes they get fined. You know, or in the case of George Capagnara's, I bring my mum, because every time mum comes to the show, he gets really scared. He goes, "Oh, is your mum here?" Oh, no, that means I can't swear. I refuse to work with anyone who swears. Now, there are comedians who swear, and there's a place for that. I don't like it, and I try and have, because we want to try and do very smart, intelligent comedy, and there's no need to. I don't think there's any need to. So that's the number one thing. We like to work with comedians who are like-minded, who are talented, and I've been very, very fortunate to work with people like George Capagnaras, who was Mimo in Acropolis Now, with Simon Palomares, who was one of the creators of Wogs Out of Work, and I learned so much from these guys, and who are fantastic artists, and who've also they were the originators of this kind of humor.
Yeah.
So you start with the people that you want to work with. You know, and then you build a show around that. And you look at everybody's talent. George is a great parody writer, so I write all my parodies with George. Simon was a great comedian, so we'd write gags together. In his other shows that we did, Tahir was a great sketch writer and a man with great ideas. He was really out there, and so you take from everybody, and you put the shows together. And then it's my job to produce it and book the venues and get everything going, the promotions and all that kind of stuff.
So your company does all of that yourself?
Yes, yeah, all over the world.
Okay, right. Yeah. And you find local promoters in Canada, local promoters in Argentina?
No, we are the promoters.
Oh, you are as well?
Yes.
In each territory?
Yes, so I bankroll my own shows and I produce my own shows.
Right, wow,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All over the world.
Yeah. So when you produce a show, is that for like a period of time, like for 6 months or for the next year? Is that how you gauge it?
In Australia, we do the shows a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
But in the markets like Canada or America or England, it's every 4 years, every 3 years, every 4 years. I haven't done America for 8 years. Next year I'll be doing a big tour of the United States, because the demand now has, like, most of the orders on our website go straight to the United States for DVDs and CDs and so on. And also on iTunes you can have a look, and it tells you where everybody's downloading, and so you can see, you know, where to go, and that's how you know.
Right. because the big Italian communities, for example, in Canada is Toronto. That's why you're successful there.
Montreal,
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah, of course, New York, Pennsylvania, like where I'm from on the Great Lakes, all that.
Yeah.
Where else in the States has been big for you?
Well, places, Milwaukee has the largest Italian festa in the world.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know that. It's huge, absolutely huge.
Oh, right.
Chicago has a huge population of Italians.
Yeah, of course.
San Diego, there's a lot of Calabrese in San Diego. In different parts, it's really interesting. I've been very fortunate enough to be able to travel to 80, 90 different cities around the world, and some of you will know those cities. As everyone knows a lot of Italians in Toronto or in New York, but it's interesting how colonies were formed of Italians. There's a place called Kamloops, which is, if you imagine Vancouver in Canada, 4 hours inwards of Vancouver is a place called Kamloops, and the way that place was populated was Italians, because there was a Sicilian guy who went and worked there, and he was such a great worker that his boss said, if you can go back and get me another 50 guys like you, I will give you a house. So he went back to Sicily. He got his cousins or friends and whatever, and they all came over to this little country town called Kamloops. And of course, one brother come over, so then the other brother came, or then, the sister came or the cousin, they would want to leave Italy, and they go, well, where am I going to go? I'm going to go where my cousin is. And where their cousin was this little town. And now this town is full of, it's about 10,000 Italians
right.
in this little country town 4 hours inwards of Vancouver. And that's how Italian colonies were formed all over the world.
Yeah, that's right, exactly, yeah. So, one of the things that I think that you actually pride yourself on, besides the fact that you are really passionate, right, about entertaining and comedy, but to make people laugh and to make people enjoy themselves, et cetera, but you also have something sort of instilled in you, I think, that you really, really feel it's important for people to laugh. Why is that?
Well, it is important. Scientifically, laughter releases endorphins into your system, which are the natural happy drugs that you have. But laughter is healing. It's healing because it's by the content of your show is actually you're questioning. Like I'm questioning, why do we have olives in the butter container, and why did Nonna do this, or why did Nonna do that? So it's questioning something, and it's by using humour, it sort of breaks down the barriers a little bit. If I came up and started yelling at you about something, you would then get very defensive. But if I was joking around about it, you would sort of understand it in a different way. So it's important like that. But it's also important because laughter can heal in very different ways. And it's very touching. And this is what really keeps me going, is when you get somebody at the end of a show who says, I went through chemotherapy and you helped me, because I would watch your CDs, I would listen to your CDs, and it helped me get through, that situation. And probably the most touching story that I've ever had was not on the last Canadian tour, the one before. A lady came up to me and she said, "Please, you must read this letter. This is my husband. You must read this letter, please, when you get home." And so we got home, we relaxed, and I opened the letter and I read the letter, and she said that 3 years prior to that, she had lost her 19-year-old son, just like that, in a car accident, I think it was. And they were never able to laugh again. And so when she found out that I was coming to town, she said, I'm going to bring my parents, my sister and myself, and we're going to come and we're going to laugh again. But she goes, my husband refused to come. He didn't want to come. He didn't have the heart to laugh. He didn't want to be seen laughing in front of, it was at that venue there, 3,000 other Italians. And then I would go away and do other shows, and then I would come back to Toronto. So she had come back and brought her husband. And I was reading this letter after the show, and she said, "I just want to thank you because we laughed, and that was the first time we laughed in 3 years, and you're the catalyst. You're the next part of our healing process."
Yeah.
And I was looking at this letter, and she must have gone to the bathroom to write it, and I looked at it, and there were blotches because she was crying while she was writing it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I had tears as well on that same letter.
Yeah.
I keep that letter. I keep it.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, it's so important for people. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's great. Yeah. I mean, it's so important for people to, sort of just let that out.
Yeah, yeah. And
which is
to those people,
a very healing thing.
You're a very important part of their life, and you don't know that. How was I? If she had not told me that, I would not have known that. And it's interesting how you can be so much, and you can mean so much to a total stranger, and it's hard when someone comes up and says, "I love you," and you don't know who they are. It's, I feel like George Clooney for.
Oh, that's great. So you want to show some pics of your parents?
Yeah, I mean, the next, you asked me, we toured the world, and I was very lucky to have my mum's brother, my Uncle John. He was a great tour manager, so he toured the world, and he helped me out. You'll see him in the next picture. That's him there. He travelled the whole world with me, and it was good to have him. Because he made sure we didn't go wayward, and it's very easy to go wayward in this business, and so he would be there, and he would be my bodyguard, he'd be my tour manager, and make sure that no one, he's a big guy. He used to push a lot of people out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he's an absolute sweetheart. The next picture, I was very fortunate to be invited to meet both Prime Ministers of Canada. And so he said, in that chair, he said last week was Bono for you too, and he said about him. And this was in 2008, I think, at the time, and he's also said, because he was a French, his name is Jean Chrétien, and I used to call him Gino Gradino, and not to his face, and he said to me something very interesting. He said, a month ago, your Prime Minister was in this chair, John Howard. And he says, let me tell you, he doesn't run the country, his wife does. She was there, and she was very forceful, he could tell, So I was very honoured to be able to, as you see in the next picture, that's him there. And that's him. And I had to have a coleslaw that day.
Okay, so when was this, Joe?
That was 2008.
2008. Okay, yeah.
2008. And then I got to meet the next Prime Minister, who's Paul Martin, and same chair.
Same chair, same place.
Same place, different Prime Minister.
Okay, so a couple of years later, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I love this next pic. Who do you think this is? Absolutely adorable.
Thank you.
And how old?
How old am I there, Mum? About three? Yeah. The next one's my first ever headshot.
That's a great promo for it. You have to have that on your next album cover. That's cute. It is.
This picture was taken. Where was this taken, Mum? Was this at Burwood? In Burwood? At Westfields, where Westfields is now.
Maybe 18 months.
18 months. And Mum took me for a television commercial, which I didn't get. So that's officially my first ever headshot.
That's the first promo shot. Okay.
Yeah. There's other pictures which there's another one of talking with the Prime Minister. But is there a way that you can?
I go backwards. You want to see your?
Yeah. We can go backwards. If you can keep on going back to. That's New York. Is that on? No, I can't see that. Yeah, that was the first time I did New York, and I love this picture because, as I said, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And it was, to be able to sell out stadiums in New York was a great thing. And it was just so New York. All you can see is yellow cabs. And that was 2004. If we could keep going back, with my grandparents. If you can get back to go back again.
Back.
This was probably. These are all my grandfathers, and my brother and my father. And this is probably, a lot of people ask me what's the proudest moment.
I was going to ask you this. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if next year I start acting and I end up winning an Academy Award. Nothing will come close to. In 2002, I was lucky enough to fly all my grandparents. Except one, my grandmother, she won't fly, to Canada, and they came on tour, and they got a civic reception by the Mayor of Toronto. They were on news TV shows. They were. You flick through, you can see them on. I think if you go back.
Backwards, yep.
Yeah, if you go back, there's Nonna with his all access pass. That's
Oh, he's sideways. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry about that. There they are. They're on
There they are.
TV. They're being interviewed there on TV.
Oh, really? How exciting for them.
Yeah,
eh?
and one of my Nonna, I think if you go back up top, keep on going.
Oh, that's it.
No, there is.
Right, that's the first one.
You'll see. There should be others there.
Okay.
There's one picture of my Nonna who's actually on. It's my father's parents. And that's the Nonna with the dupatati, by the way.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
That's the one who sent me dupatati. And the next picture is a really interesting one. I was lucky enough. The big parade in New York is the Columbus Day parade, and I was invited by the New York Post to be on their float. So that was a real big honour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
And you'll see my Nonna's really is a cool shot. He's actually on.
So tell me one.
Keep going. Oh, okay, go back for a second, because this is a really interesting picture. So that's me, obviously in my father's arms, and my mother and her grandparents. So I had 4 great grandparents who were I remember vividly, and they're all buried here in Australia. So they all came out to Australia. I like that picture because it's just I remember them. There they are, and that's my Nonna looking cool.
Okay, that's your grandfather. Yeah.
My Nonna.
Right. So on your dad's side, your mom's side.
That's the Dupatati Nonna.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. There's some blurred pictures. I'm not sure what. Yeah. Anyway, there was a picture in there.
Yeah. Sorry, these are cut off. Don't know why, but.
That one. Yeah,
And there's another one.
That one.
I'll leave that up. That's great. Yeah. Fantastic. So, would you like to sort of possibly? I hate to ask you this, but just go into like form, like one little short joke, possibly.
Does anyone have any requests? The Wog wedding speech. Okay, I'll have to do this for. Hang on. So what's your name?
Josh.
Josh, how old are you?
19.
19. Oh, cool. Thank you for coming. Thanks for coming out. And,
He came with Mama.
He came with Mama. Nice. Does he give you trouble? You're lucky. You're the generation today is very lucky because you guys didn't go through what we went through. Like I said, I grew up watching Duran Duran and Wham, and I wanted to have an earring. No chance. I'm 40. I'm still not allowed to have an earring. I remember I said, "Bart, can I have an earring?" Oh, all right, tenacity, nice. Boom. Now your earring for a long time. So Josh, you're very lucky because and I'm glad he's here because there's you're probably the youngest, maybe the youngest here. Is anyone younger than Josh? Guys, how old are you girls up the top? 14. Oh. You know how lucky you are? Me and everyone in this room went to sacrifice our life for you. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. You understand that? We weren't even allowed to have a toy, darling. What a toy. A toy, I just haven't wanted a toy for 20 years. It's called the shovel. Because Josh, you got toys on us, I had kick in your ass. That's the difference. Now he wants me to do this because every time you go to an Italian wedding, he goes, "This is the speech. This is my impression." I don't know if he's seen his art. Okay, so this is for Josh. So this is the impression of every speech at every Italian wedding you've ever been to. So the father of the bride or groom will grab the microphone and it'll go like this. Hello. Hello, compadre. I'd like to thank everybody to come here because my son is getting married. That's for Josh.
Oh, dude.
But you are lucky, mate. You're very lucky because you've got, my generation is called the bridging generation. Because your mum went through a hard time, you've got an easy time, and we were a bit of both, somewhere in the middle, And I'm glad that you came, and you should come more often to hear about your heritage. And what part of Italy Are you from?
Isole Oli, Filipude.
Ah, nice. Good. I was there 2 years ago. It's beautiful. Beautiful. And have you been?
No.
No. Oh my God. You must go. You know why? For nothing else, that when you go, everything will make sense. But under no circumstance, don't tell your relatives that you're going. Because when they find out you're going, they will give you gifts. You'll spend the first week of your hard-earned holiday delivering gifts to people you've never met in your life. You know, I remember the first time I went to Calabria, I was 24. I live in Melbourne now, but I grew up in Burwood, Strathfield, and that area, the inner west. And you know, Kumari's all excited, comes to the house, gives me a gift. I go all the way to Calabria, give the lady the gift, she unwraps it. And Josh, you'd think it was a fluffy koala or a kangaroo or a set of boomerangs. No, the Italian Kumari from Sydney, she lives in Haberfield, gives me to give to the Kumari in Calabria a box of Baci chocolates. That she bought from Angelo at Zanetti's. So do you understand? And then you've got jet lag because you're sleeping, so the Kumari's shoving stuff into your bag because she wants you to deliver all the gifts back here. You become the Italian Chappelle Corby. You understand? And then you start sweating, right? Because you come home, you come to customs, and you know the customs agents are going to ask you 2 questions. Number 1, has anyone other than yourself packed your bag? And you're thinking, sit down, man, ask somebody here, something miserable cream. No, I've done everything myself. Are you fully aware of what's in your bag? Yeah, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, there's oil dripping out. A roll of salami are holding your pajamas. There's a goat head in the corner. You know, have you ever seen that movie Alive? If the plane, there's a movie where the plane smashes into the mountain and the survivors have to eat one another to survive. That would never happen with Alitalia. Because if Alitalia smashed into a mountain, there'd be enough seeds in everyone's luggage to grow crops for the next 30 years.
Oh, fantastic.
It's funny when you go to. You asked me to get into it. I'm getting.
I did.
It's funny when you do go to Italy, and it makes you realise. And this is a very interesting thing and this is why you need to go, because when I went to Italy, and I've been a few times, and you know, I'm assuming a lot of people in here were probably born in Italy, right? I'm assuming, yeah. Show of hands who was actually born in Italy, yeah. When you know, it's interesting because sometimes the immigrants, they come to Australia and then after 20 years they go back and, you know, Italia is the best, Italia. When they get there they go, no, it's not, Australia. It is. And it makes you realise that you aren't, because, you know, if someone in the schoolyard asks you, Josh, where are you from? What are you going to say? I'm Italian. You're not, you're Australian. But you immediately, that's what you normally say, that I'm Italian. Right? When you go to Italy several times, you'll realise that you're not Italian. And it'll also make you realise that you're more Australian. You're not so much, you know, because, you know, I'm not an Aussie, I don't eat meat pies, I don't play the footy, I don't, you know, it's not that. It makes you realise when you go to Italy that you are an Italo-Australian. And it's very, very different to being an Italian or an Australian or an Italo-American or an Italo-Canadian, you know. And it makes you proud of being, you know, Australian, you know, because, you know, and maybe I think it was one of the questions on here was, you know, there are some people who don't like me for what I do, and I never realised that, because
I wasn't going to ask you that question because who would like it?
No, because I think it's interesting that, you know, we talk about that, because it's not all just fun and games, it's not all jovial, you know, and I didn't realise this. Until one day a friend of mine said, because I'm thinking, you know, I'm getting up, I'm telling jokes, I'm making people happy, and a friend of mine said, you know, I love what you do, my son loves your comedy, but when I go to my father's house, we're not allowed to mention your name, we're not allowed to put your CDs on, he hates you, and it didn't occur to me, and no, you know, I'm not an antagonistic kind of guy, I've never had a fight in my life, I'm not that kind of a person, and it made me realise, wow, here's somebody who doesn't know me, but just because of what he's hearing, hates me. And there are people, you know, older generation who don't like me because they think that I'm absolutely making fun of them. And it made me realise that. And so I thought, okay, yeah, I can understand that. And so in every show after that, we would, I would say, you know, that there were people who don't like me. And all we're doing, myself and, you know, people like Vince and George and all the other ethnic comics, is we're imitating. And imitation is the highest form of flattery. And we're imitating our parents and our grandparents so that their image can live longer in the minds of the children, like Josh, because we're thankful to them. Because I've been back to Italy, right, and no one works. No one wants to do anything. And I'll get to that in a minute. And, you know, you go and see a cousin, and he's in the same chair as he was 10 years ago, right? And you really wouldn't want to grow up in that, right? And you've got to be thankful to your parents and your grandparents because they came out to countries like Australia or Canada, England, America to make a future. Like your nonni probably came out. His nonni came out, right? Before 1950. Before you even born, before they even knew you existed. And they came here in 1950 to give your mother a better life and eventually you a better life in this wonderful and great country that we call Australia. So we really owe it to our parents.
Yeah, that's right. But so basically, what you know, I mean, are doing, Joe, besides the fact that you're actually sort of entertaining people and sort of healing people and making people laugh and enjoy it, you know, in a show, is that you are really giving a fantastic tribute to your heritage.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it is.
And of course, the people that don't like you, well, that's their problem. They think that
you know
you're
what
making
it
fun
is.
of them.
It is at the end of the day. I can't sit down and worry about, because there are thousands, hundreds, and millions of people who do. You know, I can't. But as an entertainer, it's funny because you're doing your show and you know the whole room's laughing, and the only person you're looking at is the person down the front who's not. You know, looking at you. But and sometimes you feel like saying, you know, why don't you tell your face to smile? You know, it's you're forgetting to laugh. But sometimes it's very interesting. At the end of the show, because every show I always go out and I meet and I greet fans. Sometimes that particular person will come up and say to you, "I had the best time, thank you."
Had no idea, right?
It's just people laugh differently.
Yeah. I suppose that's
People
right.
do laugh differently, you know. And some people don't laugh at all. Sometimes it really takes, you know. And sometimes people say, "Oh, thank you," because I've never seen my dad laugh so much, you know, or. You know, and I should say that guy who I was telling you before, where he said, "Oh, my, I love you, my son loves you, my father can't stand your guts." I said, "You know what? Next time I do a show, I'm going to give him 2 tickets to bring him and your mum to the show." And they did come. They came to the show,
right.
and now
Okay.
every time I go to Melbourne, they're the first ones buying tickets.
Yeah, fantastic.
You know.
No, that's great. So yeah, that's fantastic, Joe. Great. Yeah, but I might open this up to audience questions.
Yeah.
You know, for 10, 15 minutes, is that okay? Yeah.
You know, I'm not going anywhere.
All right, so one question as I'm walking to the audience.
Yeah.
First question that I have, I'm allowed to do this, right?
Yeah.
Is how does the Joe Avati off stage actually differ from Joe Avati on stage?
Well, as I said to you before, a lot of people don't know. I'm very shy. I mean, the guy that you see on stage is someone that I really wish I could be off stage, but I'm just not. I just can't. It's just not who I am. And my friends tell you, my mum would tell you, wasn't my mum? I was very shy, very, very shy. In fact, if anyone was going to be the comedian, it would have been my brother, who's up the back, because he was more the outgoing one. He's actually a funny guy. He gives me a few good gags. All my friends do, and I'm very lucky for that, you know. And that's how the show's evolved. Yeah.
Okay, so any questions? And I'll just walk around with the mic. There you go.
Thanks. Joe, what do you think of the expression, you've probably heard it, there's only 2 types of people in this world. They're Italian and Italian.
Well, is there any non-Italians? Okay, all right, non-Italians, all right. there's a lot of look. You know, there's a lot. It's a funny comment. There is some truth in that because you know why? Because Italy's got so much going for it in terms of it's Armani and Versace and fashion and cars and Ferrari and the food and so that's why Josh at school when I say to him where are you from? He goes, I'm Italian. Why does he feel the need that he has to say that he's Italian when he hasn't even been there, right? And this is another interesting thing. When Italy was playing Australia in the World Cup in 1996, I think it was it 2006? Sorry, it's 2006. When Italy was playing Australia in that match, where because of the penalty, Italy went on and Australia was eliminated. There were children waving Italian flags who were born in Australia and whose parents were born in Australia. Why were they waving an Italian flag when they really should have been waving an Australian flag? And that night when Italy was playing Australia made me realise that I was Australian, because that's who I felt more for, and I felt the affinity for that. But the question that you asked is the same answer as to why he goes and says I'm Italian, because Italy has produced so many great things and people want to be associated with a winner, and Italy's got so much of that around the world, yeah.
Yeah, great answer. In the back, we got a question?
Joe, I don't like you because you're Italian. I like you because you're calabrese. And the reason is,
Thank you.
by the way,
So what's your name, sir?
Peter Tesoriero. My people came here in the 1880s.
You're doing the complaints
In the 1880s.
in the 1880s, yeah?
Yeah. And we're here because of history.
Yes,
And we have a great tradition of mimicry
yes,
and of comedy, commedia dell'arte.
yes.
And I have some fantastic records, you've probably heard of them, of 100 years old.
Okay, on time, if we got a little bit more. Okay.
It was in Lower East Side in New York.
New York, yeah.
You know all about it.
Yeah.
So this is playing to Siciliani,
Yeah.
Northfield, you were saying Northfield. This, what worries me, Joe, and you do it so well, and you have this audience of people like me who identify with this accent and this authenticity, is that it's going to be transient because it depends on an audience that's bilingual,
Yes.
an audience that understands the dialect,
Yes.
and an audience that understands English can get the irony.
Yeah.
And you remember you were saying a little ago about how you don't want to offend people.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't help comparing you with somebody like Barry Humphries,
Sure.
who's not that sort of person.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to see you degenerate into something like that. But the whole thing is that there's so much change, and you mightn't change, but the damn audience will change and will be less capable. But I think you've got so much talent, and you will move with it. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
If I could just answer quickly, I was lucky enough to be honoured enough to host in Melbourne the Premier's Gala dinner. So it was the Premier's Night of Nights, and they had it was 1,400 people, black tie event, and there was about 200 different nationalities represented, 34 religions, and they all. I mean, I did my gags, but in English, and they all laughed. Didn't matter where they were from. So it does translate eventually to other cultures.
Okay, one more question here. Yes. Joe, this is our immediate past chairman.
Joe, have you ever heard of a series of an Italian comedian called Northfield? This is some fellow who apparently migrated to the USA before the war, and he made a series of recordings of jokes just like you're talking about now. Have you ever come across this fellow?
I've heard of the name, but I haven't heard of the...
My mother and father used to split themselves laughing their heads off. And so did we after we got to know the interpretation of Italian and Australian English. It was just amazing. I don't know if any of you people remember this sort of thing. Maybe Josie might remember. But an awful
You remember it,
it's a very old series. It's only available in the old 78s.
Right.
I know what happened to them. Now, that's one thing, my comment. The second point I'd like to raise with you, have you ever been to Naples and have you had any experiences in Naples? Because that's where my parents come from.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have. I just went to Naples about 6 weeks ago, and I bought a DVD player, and when I opened the box, it was made of wood. Naples is beautiful. I had a picture. I've been around the Amalfi Coast many times, but I've never actually been in the heart of Naples, and I wanted to go just to see it, and it's beautiful. You know, I had a great time. But you know, actually, there's a great joke about that. You know, there's a guy breaks down on the freeway in Napoli, and so you know he gets a flat tire, so he starts to change the tire. Another car pulls up, the guy gets out, jumps in and starts to steal the stereo. And the guy who owns the car goes, "Oh, che cosa sta facendo? Dice, fratello, tu prendi le roti e io prendo il stereo. You steal the tires and I'll steal the radio. Don't worry about it." For
Excellent.
those of you who are not Italian, Naples is known for being very good things. And great pizza makers, of course.
Joe, have you ever done any of your shows in Italy?
No, I haven't. That's a question
And
I get
I'm
all
just
the time.
wondering how you go.
Yeah, I could do a show in Italy. It's not that I can't. I could do a show in Italy. And what I would have to do is I mean, there are some things that I wouldn't be able to do, some gags that I wouldn't be
Yes.
able to do because, like the dupatati, I could
No.
do dupatati, but there are some gags where there's a lot of wordplay, which I wouldn't be able to do. But also on the other side, I wouldn't be able to just go and do it all in Calabrese either because they wouldn't expect that,
No.
right? And the reason I know that is because they had Big Brother in Italy, as all the other
yes.
countries, but they call it Grande Fratello.
Yeah.
They had an Italo-Australian contestant on there, and he would converse with the other members of the house in his version of Italian, right, which is the dialect. And people would watch that show just to hear him stuff. They thought it was hilarious.
Yes. No,
They
it's-
thought it was hilarious listening to him talking this,
Not sure if this is
bastardized Italian.
Yeah.
This Calabrese that, their grandparents, they don't speak the dialect anymore.
no, that's actually happened.
And the other reason why I haven't gone to Italy is because I don't know if I trust any of the promoters there.
Oh, no. No, but I don't. I think a lot of those people who are in Italy
Yes.
don't really understand the immigrant story and don't really understand the kind of hardships that a lot of people went through coming to a new country and the kinds of humour that you're talking about that was generated from that hardship.
Yeah.
They thought it was just, the streets were paved with gold and you just went and picked it up.
Yeah, they wouldn't understand that hardship, and I probably, if I did shows in Italy, I wouldn't be addressing those particular points. But I would be talking about the things that any other kid would do. Like, when I get in trouble, I thought my dad, he was going to help me with my maths homework because he'd say, quando eravamo a casa mi facevi i conti. Right? If you sit next to someone who's not an Italian, you have to explain to them. So, but that happened to me here, but that would happen to a child in Italy as well. So those kind of gags would work. And the other reason I know that it would work because I believe, and if someone knows the difference, please correct me. I believe that in the last couple of years, there have been around about 18,000 Italian nationals moved to Australia, and they come to the show. Or sometimes someone will have a cousin who's visiting from Italy, and they go, "We're going to the Joe Avati show," and they'll drag them along to the show, and they will come up afterwards, and they would say to me, "Oh, I really loved the show. I really understood. I didn't understand, some of the nuances they didn't understand, but they understood most of the show." So I know that my show, if it's packaged correctly will work in Italy.
Yeah, no, that's great. Joe, do you want to tell everybody your next presentation, your next shows that you actually have in Sydney?
I'm actually taking a break for quite a while I'm writing a new show and new material, but I do have sporadic shows here and there. The next show, I'm producing a show called A Very Wongy Christmas. I'm not in the show, but I'm producing it with a few other great talented comedians, Kai here and George Capagnaris and Gabriel Rossi. And that's happening all through December, Burwood, Araceli, Marconi and so on. But the next show that I'm doing, which I haven't done for a while, is my bilingual show. And that's at Bankstown Sports, I believe, in February.
Oh, great. Okay. Fantastic. And you want to talk about some of your product before we actually...
Well, I wasn't going to bring any, but you said, to bring some CDs and DVDs here if there's anyone who would like to, buy them or, have a picture or tell us your own stories. Sometimes that's how the shows build. I was on Saturday night, I was in a place called Waroona, which was is in between Harvey and Bunbury in Western Australia, and so it's a 4.5-hour flight from Melbourne, another 2.5-hour drive to get there, and now I get there and there's 450 Calabrese, all from Sudan, and we were raising money for a gentleman who had MS, and we're raising money so they can get him a chair, and apparently he was really naughty, and he told me a great gag, which is a true story, and they're all dairy farmers and they're all tomato farmers or potato farmers in that area of Australia, and he said when I was 14 years old I got caught with 4 long-neck beer bottles in my bag, and I was suspended for 2 weeks because I wasn't scared of the principal, I was scared of my dad, and so the principal had to call my dad, and he called him up. And he says, Mr. Caponata, I'm suspending your son for 2 weeks. And he goes, and my father looked at the principal and said, good. Actually, make it 3. Because I need help getting all the potatoes. So that's an absolutely true story. And he told me that story at the end of the show. So if anyone's got a story like that, please feel free to come and tell me.
Anything else you can think of?
That's how these shows are going to be on the show.
Fantastic. Joe, thank you so much. What a great night. So put your hands together, everybody, for Joe.
Thank you for having me here.
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure. And actually, on behalf of the Italian Family History Group, we always give a little bit of a